Mr. Robot, I see you have the solar system. God
Right.
knows where we're doing what we're doing tonight. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like, what else do I do, right? Something to do with
Hmm.
the macro view of our lives. So yeah, this video I kind of want to title The Lineage of Our Soul.
Okay, the lineage of our soul. Okay.
So um I have some information on the way that our souls have progressed through the solar system, and I would like to share the information and verify it with someone who has a grand view of time and isn't limited by any well, I don't know what you want to call it, isn't limited in answers.
Right, because we do get a lot of communication in the 3D world about why don't you continue to channel more white light beings. And that's true. Like, I totally understand that. But what I do find is they are very limited in what they're allowed to give us as far as information is concerned. So,
Yeah,
I'm learning that now. We're all learning. We're all learning together. So yeah. So who would you? What are we doing? Who am I channeling here?
it would be cool to pull in Bashar,
Okay.
and let me know if you get a connection with him.
He says hello again.
Awesome. So can you ask Bashar if the some of the souls on Earth originated from Mars?
To some of the souls on Earth originated from Mars. Um. So that's a mixed bag answer.
Mhm.
Not many. But maybe one or two.
Okay. And then from there, ask him if this asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter used to be an inhabited planet.
The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter used to be an inhabited planet. That's correct.
So the information I got is that there was a planet right here and it was named Maldek. Can you confirm that with Bashar?
He's disagreeing with you on the name.
Okay. Ask him if it sounds like Maldek.
Yes, it's similar. Yes.
Yeah, maybe it's lost in translation. But ask him if there were entities with souls that lived on this planet that let's reference for now as Maldek.
That is correct.
Awesome. So what I'm finding with all of this information that we're probing is that civilizations keep going and coming and going and coming, and that the universe is really just a place for, I mean, there's other things, but let's just say for the white light entities like humans with souls, it is just simply a place for us to incarnate, die, incarnate over and over and over. And we simply just go to whatever planet is inhabitable. And that's the information I'm finding out. And I think that that's worth people knowing. And the theory is that people, or I should say the souls, because I don't know if they were like humans, were on this planet. It got blown up. The souls went to Mars. Can you confirm that the soul reincarnation cycle went from Maldek to Mars?
That's correct.
Awesome. And then ask him what happened to the planet in between Mars and Jupiter.
It exploded.
Was it through war?
Was it because of what kind of war?
Yeah, well, was it war from the beings on the planet, or was it like a collusion?
I feel like it was a collusion and it was an energy war. So they injected loads of energy into the planet that made it explode.
And ask Bashar how advanced the civilization was on this planet that was referred to as Maldek.
It was very advanced, a lot more advanced than what we are today as humans.
And ask him if the beings there resemble humans in terms of DNA.
Only a very tiny fraction.
And see if he can show you what they look like and if you can get a little brief description of them.
Okay. What the beings look like. They were faceless. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I don't see any eyes. I don't see any like nose, or it's almost just like an outline of how the human body was. But there's no defining features on the body itself.
And did they just communicate telepathically?
Yes, that's correct.
And see if you can get a name for these types of beings from Bashar.
They still in existence? I don't even feel like they're still in existence today.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this happened millions of years ago.
Yeah.
What is the name of these types of beings? Well, it's not equivalent to anything in English.
Yeah. Okay. And ask Bashar what was the most exciting part of this civilization from his perspective.
Most exciting part of this civilization from your perspective. They were able to grow things.
What were they growing?
What were they growing? Plant life.
Ask if this planet resembled Earth.
Somewhat, yes.
Or if it resembled Mars when it was inhabitable.
Yes, but we wouldn't understand what that looks like.
Well, okay, ask him if it was bigger or smaller than Earth.
Smaller.
And bigger or smaller than Mars.
Bigger.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Oh, what's that?
Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, but it basically means it's in between these two sizes, I guess. I'm not a planetary scientist or anything, but that's just information for anyone who may be an astrologist or whatever, astronomer. Sorry. So ask him what percent of that population was able to reincarnate onto Mars.
About 90%.
Oh, well, that meant,
I feel like a lot of them escaped.
Cool. And can Bashar show you that moment when the planet exploded, just for your own description?
Okay, he's showing me. There's the whole planet. It was like it was hit by a beam of light coming down from the top of it. And it just exploded.
Ask him if it was attacked by an outside force.
That's correct.
And then just for their fun, ask them if it was the Anunnaki.
No.
Or like an alien species that did it.
Yes, that's correct.
Spooky.
Could they physically do that to Earth as well? They could do whatever they want. So could they make the Earth explode? Yeah, they could. They could make the Earth explode.
What's preventing them from exploding the Earth? Are we in trouble in the future or anytime?
Exploding the Earth already. Because we're not bothering them.
Okay. So they were poking and prodding, maybe visiting another planet, and the other planet maybe didn't like it. Something like that, maybe.
Could very well be.
Ask Bashar if once we are in spirit, if we would have unbound access to this information.
We have access to this information. No. We're not allowed to communicate with aliens.
No, just like the history of the universe, like
the history.
All information should be logged somewhere, right? Like, shouldn't we be a part of all information in spirit?
I don't find we have access to all information. No, that we don't. A lot of that information is forbidden.
Okay. So ask Bashar why only a little bit of percent of the souls went from Mars to Earth.
Why did only a very small percentage of souls go from Mars to Earth? Why did only a very small percentage of souls go from Mars to Earth? Because they were starting over.
So did a lot of those souls get taken back up in the source?
Did they really take it back into source? I don't feel like they came from source. But they did have a soul. I actually feel like they're from another universe.
Okay, cool. This is actually right where I would like to cross-reference with Aradif, if we could.
Okay.
Can you ask Aradif if currently any Earth souls are from Mars?
Earth souls from Mars. Maybe, very maybe, 5 or less.
And would those souls be people of high importance?
Those souls be people of importance? No.
I think that would be the definition of an old soul. If you could find someone from Mars, it'd be fun to find one of them and probe them.
I have done, I don't know how many readings over the years. Thousands, I guess I'm up to now.
Yeah.
And I have only found on one, possibly two, one definite occasion where somebody had a soul that did have a lifetime on another planet. And she was allowed to come here and experience a lifetime here, but she has never felt as if she has fitted in. Now, I know a lot of psychics and mediums and charlatans are out there saying, get a reading, find out which planet you're from and all that. And I'm not trying to be dismissive, but they tend to only give you that information and not give you any information about your current lifetime. So I would really question whether they were actual psychics or mediums or whatever they claim to be. I find that people that have come through for readings about a star seed, it's
Yeah.
as if they're all reading off the same script.
Oh,
So,
for sure.
yeah, right. So, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what you're going to say next because I've heard the script before. So, but I can honestly say, hands down, there's only one person out of all the thousands of readings that I've done, CTT sessions, all of that, even the mind probes and the channeling, where somebody has actually had an existence that was not on planet Earth, that was somewhere in the universe.
Can you ask, just for fun, Aradif, if one of my incarnations was on a different planet?
No, but I feel like you're heading there eventually.
Headed for the stars, right? So you know what's really funny about that is, well, when we pull that, it's like not really, but when people get a session with Aradif and Treb, particularly Treb, he will show you, you're like part Palladian and part whatever, and everyone that gets a reading is part something.
So I've channeled Treb before, and considering how playful and how much he likes to joke around, I don't know. I can't say one way or the other whether that information would be accurate.
Right.
You have to be careful. I mean, we just did this thing last week where it was very clear to me that the alien we were channeling, the entity, was lying to me. They're not bound by spiritual law. If you're going to a psychic medium who is channeling a loved one in spirit, that loved one in spirit is bound by source law, which is thou shalt not lie, right?
Well, you know what's interesting about that is a lot of the information that you got, though, like 90% of it jived with other information. So I would like to backtest some of that with some other entities, some of it. Like for instance, one of them, because a lot of people were in our chat saying, that the whole video was null and void basically because of that fact. But certain things that were definitely lies, like the soul part. But like the Zetas being another dimension version of humans, because you cross-reference that with Aradif.
So what is the question?
Are Zeta Reticuli aliens different dimension version of humans?
And I'm checking with Bashar or Aradif.
Check. I mean, both. Let's see what they both say.
I got a no from Bashar and I got a no from Aradif.
And I wonder if that's a semantics thing, because I've definitely heard Bashar say that they are different dimension versions of humans, the Zetas or the Greys. Ask Bashar if the Greys are a different dimensional version of humans.
Okay, are Greys a different dimensional version of humans? They're very similar, not as in different dimensions, but sort of designed the same.
Yeah, so on that note, Bashar says that the Greys lost their ability to reproduce, and that's why they were interested in our DNA, that they're trying to continue their species.
That's correct. Interested in our DNA. Yeah, yes, they're trying to grow. Yes. They're trying to grow more of them.
Because did they lose their ability to reproduce?
Yes, that's correct. I wonder why.
Ask them if the Greys are normally in a different dimension than us.
No.
Okay, so they're in our dimension,
Mm-hmm.
or our, maybe universe is the right word. Ask if they're in the same universe as us normally.
No.
Okay, so they're ask if they're in a different universe version of humans.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is what's really hard about this information is you have to be so pinpoint with how you word it, or else, you know, I mean, it is actually nice, but it's hard for someone like me who has to remember which clarification term matters. But anyways,
Oh,
moving
yeah.
forward.
It definitely is all about, my abilities are only as good as the person questioning me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay. So here, that was section A of this experiment to see our soul lineage from our solar system, and then part B of this probe is a star that is 6 light years away from us, and there's not really any great photos. Here's our sun. Here's Alpha Centauri. Before we get to what I want to do, let's probe Bashar and ask if there's any life near Alpha Centauri.
Yes.
And do they visit Earth?
Not in physical form.
Okay. In well, what would he classify that as? Because it might not be called spirit, but what is it?
It would be called a consciousness. So you can, you know what I mean? Your consciousness can travel.
Okay, and on that note, ask if aliens are watching our thoughts as humans.
That's correct. They database it.
Yeah, he mentioned that we are the entertainment for our solar system, basically.
Yes, we are.
And ask if they learn anything by watching us.
Do they learn anything by watching us? Yes, they do.
Yeah, so it's not just a weird type of enjoyment. It's like going to a natural history exhibit and watching the caveman, worry about who the president is. So now let's get into the Barnard Star. This is going to be super interesting. This is one of our closest stars to us. And it is a red dwarf, I believe. Let's see what this picture says. Okay, well, what's interesting about the Barnard Star is we don't know if there's a planet in the habitable zone. Habitable zone. Can you ask Bashar if there is a planet closer than Barnard B?
Yes.
And ask if people of Earth have secretly discovered a planet closer than Barnard B to Barnard Star.
No.
Okay.
He doesn't believe it's been discovered.
Okay, so this is the real question. Okay, so ask Bashar if the planet near Barnard is occupied by living entities.
Yes. Energy forms. Yes.
Okay, and so this is where it gets really interesting. If you can move Bashar to 2100 the year.
Oh, okay. 2100. Okay. All right.
Ask Bashar if people of Earth are now the UFOs to the civilization near the Barnard Star.
Yeah. So what is the question? Are people on Earth?
Are we visiting the planet near Barnard Star that's inhabited?
No. No.
And will we, as humans, be visiting the civilization that is close to the Barnard Star?
Yes, but that's hundreds of years away.
Okay. And what is the technological point of view for the civilization near Barnard Star?
They communicate telepathically.
And Bashar describes them currently as to equate to our times as to the Renaissance period. Ask him if that's still correct. Are they still in their Renaissance period?
That is correct.
And so scientists have found a planet near Barnard Star that is called Barnard Star B. And what is unfortunate about this planet is it's outside of the habitable zone. So it is frozen. Ask if there's any life on Barnard Star B.
There was at one time single-celled organisms, but I don't feel like they exist there anymore.
And here's a great photo. It shows Barnard B, which is outside of the habitable zone, since this is actually a red dwarf, which is 3 times bigger than the size of the Earth. So it's not going to put out that much heat. So ask Bashar if the planet that we're talking about is in between planet B and the star.
Yes, it's closer. It's on like that inner ring.
Yeah, so this is actually called the golden zone or Goldilocks zone, as astronomers would call it, where it's just right in distance to be warm enough for life. Can you ask Bashar if it's similar to Earth's temperatures?
It's a lot warmer.
And ask if humans end up calling it Barnard's Planet A.
That's a strong possibility, yes.
Well, it's just so weird that scientists, quote unquote, don't know of anything in between here and there, but they call this one B. It's like, why wouldn't you start at A? You know, it's like, obviously this might be A. But he doesn't think that anyone knows, and I'm just wondering if there's like a NASA cover up. Does NASA know of this inhabited planet?
It's very possible. They have suspicions, but they haven't been able to find the planet, but they have suspicions.
Yeah, so it's actually very hard for them to find this information because they got to use the I think it's like the Hubble, and they detect the red shift or the blue shift, and I guess they just haven't seen it yet. Ask if when we as Earthlings visit this planet, if we are using gravitational craft that are we using like gravitational craft to go from here to there?
Yes.
Okay, and here's the fun question. How long will it take Earthlings to get from Earth to this Barnard's A?
A few years.
Ask him if it'll take 6 years.
Ooh, I thought it was going to be about 6 years. About 6 to 7. Yes, I feel like they're going to create some magnetic systems as well.
So the real question is do humans figure out how to achieve the speed of light in interstellar travel?
Eventually, yes.
But when ask Bashar if when we achieve the speed of light, if our craft reaches an infinite mass,
No.
do we escape the problem of going the speed of light?
Yes.
Ask Bashar why we don't just use the a phase. Why don't we phase into that location? Why don't humans phase from one location to the next?
Because we would never survive.
So the way aliens use craft is they have learned that everything is basically a grid, and every single point has a point on this map, and every single point on the map has a frequency. So all they have to do to get from here to there is just dial in the frequency of Earth into their ship, and they override the frequency of where they're at, and the universe dissolves and repopulates them to the frequency that they're putting out. Can you ask if that's correct?
That is correct. That's a good question. How did you come up with that?
Just all the alien stuff I read.
So
But
it's almost like they, in ethereal bodies, they just like vanish and then they reappear, like teleporting.
well, you know what just popped in my mind is this is the most excellent time to ever bring up the Philadelphia experiment. Can you ask Bashar if the Philadelphia experiment was the first time humans phased from one location to another?
It's the first known time,
Ah,
but not the first time.
yeah, it was supposedly very, very gruesome. They were trying to come out with this new, like, invisible technology for the ship, and they were putting out this really heavy electromagnetic wave around the ship, and all the crew, well, first of all, the ship disappeared, and then I guess it reappeared a few days later or something. And when they found the ship, all the people were like fused into the metal, and because they didn't know how to repopulate into their current spot. Can you ask Bashar where the ship went when they disappeared, the Philadelphia experiment ship?
When they disappeared, did they stay? They didn't stay on planet Earth.
Did they accidentally just get into the void of space?
Yes, they ended up on another planet.
And was there oxygen on that planet where they went?
No.
Ask Bashar if if they have dialed in that technology that they use on that ship.
No, they're scared of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And just for fun, ask Bashar why paranormal activity happens in the Bermuda Triangle.
It's almost like it's a black hole.
So one of my favorite documented accounts is this guy, and I think it's basically from here to here, and I'm just guessing, but he was flying. This gentleman was flying, I don't know, from somewhere to over here, and he got to his destination in only like 2 hours when it should have been 8 hours, and he only used a little bit of gas, and he noticed he was going through a weird wormhole type cloud, but he didn't think anything about it.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Can you ask Bashar if the guy who flew through a wormhole, if that's a true story?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then here's the real question is why are these wormholes just in the sky?
It has to do with the grid system.
Okay, here's the story. It's right here. It's Bruce Gernon is the guy. He went and was flying through this. He said there was very, very strange lightning, and he was just, not really minding it, just trying to get to his destination. Ask Bashar what this effect was for Bruce Gernon.
So I feel like on the grid, okay, you've got forces pushing one way and forces pushing another way.
Mm-hmm.
And this wormhole or black hole, whatever you want to call it, is where the two energies meet and it swirls.
Okay, ask if this is why a lot of planes go missing when flying through the Bermuda Triangle.
That is correct.
And do those planes ever end up on a different planet, or they just get lost in general?
No, they resurface back on the planet, but then they're lost. They have no idea where they are.
Yeah.
I feel like they end up on, deserted islands on the other side of the planet.
I don't know. I forgot what's that flight that got totally lost recently and people were looking for it? Is like flight.
Oh, the one that went down off of Malaysia?
Oh, Malaysia. Yeah, it was the Malaysia airplane that was lost. Let's ask Bashar where it went.
I actually probed that before.
Oh, 370.
17?
Yeah. 370.
370. Okay.
Because there are some interesting theories on that. So what did you get when you probed it?
Well, I could see them underwater.
So they just crashed.
Yeah, I saw them underwater.
So what's super interesting about this flight is there was a lot of scientists all from the same company on this plane. And what's more interesting is someone hid their phone, supposedly from maybe this hijacker who might have been on the plane. And they took a photo and sent it to their family. And the photo had what's called metadata, and metadata ping the satellites and shares the location from where the photo was taken. And basically the information from that photo said that there was an island, that the photo came from an island. So people theorized that the plane was diverted to an island and the scientists, whatever. So can you ask Bashar if Malaysian Flight 370 was hijacked?
Yes,
And did they land the plane on an island?
briefly.
And when they land on an island, they offload the scientists?
No,
And why did they land on an island?
to figure out what to do next.
Hmm.
I don't even know how they would land because there was a runway there. Okay.
So they landed. I'm just wondering what happened to those people? Okay, ask Bashar if there was a government cover up for Flight 370.
No.
Oh well. Not everything is a conspiracy, I guess.
No. Did the plane go down? Yeah, the plane crashed into the ocean. That was the only thing they could think to do. They'd actually killed the pilot at that point.
The hijacker.
Yes.
On that note, let's figure out how to ask the American version of that question without getting banned on YouTube.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about all that.
Was there a plane that crashed in the United States in September 2011?
Yes.
Was there demolition technology on the beams of the building?
Demolition technology?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So the beams, so when there's something called controlled demolition, when you're taking down a building, you slice the beams of the major support beams and you cut the beams in such a way where the place can fall in on itself, which is a hallmark sign of controlled demolition, which is what we experienced that day. Otherwise, they would fall like this. But controlled demolition wants to minimize exterior cleanup, so buildings fall straight down. So it's a engineering method to slice beams like this at an angle, which makes the building just fall straight down.
Okay.
So can you ask Bashar if there was controlled demolition on our towers?
Ooh, you got to be careful. Yes.
And ask him if they incorporated the Hutchinson effect.
Okay, what is the Hutchinson effect?
So we talked about it one time, the scientist who probes metal and the metal fluctuates.
Oh. Yes, they did.
And was it from underneath the building in the subway system?
Yes.
So the Hutchinson effect dissolves metal, but it doesn't affect paper. And all the photos you'll see of that event, you see paper just flying in the air and you don't see it burnt. None of the paper is burnt from that wreckage, but all the metal is completely distorted, which made a lot of people think that maybe the Hutchinson effect was, remember when we were talking about 0 point energy?
Yes.
So imagine this being done to the beams. So it's very interesting that we got a positive on that question.
Were the people that we were told that were on the plane that day, were they actually doing that? Yes, they were actually the ones.
And what about
Be careful.
the other location? Was it as it was described to be, or was it very falsified?
Ooh, which location? The one away from that area?
Yeah, I think it's like building with a number. I don't want to be too
Ah,
specific.
okay. Was it another location falsified? Or was it? We're not asking the question properly. How should we ask the question?
Hold on, let me send you a text real quick.
Okay. Or you can type it in.
Oh, okay.
Type it in the search so everybody can see. Okay.
I thought this is what it was called. I thought it was this, but maybe it was just this that I'm referring to.
Yes, there was.
Was it a
It was a
aircraft?
controlled explosion.
Yeah, because there wasn't any wreckage signs from a craft, so it's very shaky. And okay, let's ask if the whole point of that was for oil.
It could be construed that way.
Okay, if the whole point of that was to start war.
No, the actual intentions of the persons involved was to cause chaos and destruction.
And lastly, was that an inside job?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, using Hutchinson energy is far beyond most people's palates. Let's leave it there. And then to close, let's see if Bracha Goldsmith is actually channeling Pleiadians.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is she actually channeling Pleiadians? She doesn't know what she's channeling.
How do we find out? How do we probe that?
He's pointing over that way to the left. It's a collective consciousness.
Okay, and let's talk about someone.
She does trance mediumship.
Yeah, so she thinks it's a Pleiadian. Can you ask Bashar if it is a Pleiadian?
Is it a Pleiadian? No.
Is it an alien that channels through her?
Yes, a conscious collection of, yes.
Okay. And I would love to probe Esther Hicks real quick. But not necessarily her. Can you pull in Abraham real quick?
Okay.
Abraham, who is channeled through her.
Yeah.
Does Abraham really think that the laws of attraction can be applied? Can humans really use that?
In some circumstances, yes.
And can people tune in to the vibration of abundance through what Abraham talks about?
Yes, that's correct. But it's a very unique skill.
And what is Abraham from your or its perspective? What is Abraham?
A collective.
Are they a collective of souls that are they first of all a collective of souls?
No.
And are they of source energy?
Yes.
So is it okay? Is it essentially the collective known as source that is channeled through Esther?
That is correct.
Awesome. That is crazy.
But it's easier for humans to connect with a conscious, you know what I mean, collective than going straight to source, right? Because source is so powerful that spirit world, you can't stand next to source. It's too powerful. Maybe you're not allowed to really connect directly to source.
Okay, ask Abraham how close to source it is.
It's very close.
And then in terms of densities, is it seventh density?
6.
And ask Abraham if it experiences solar or universal consciousness.
Does it experience universal? Yes, universal consciousness.
Okay. And then what does Abraham think of the inhabitants near Barnard Star?
They're decent beings.
And are they loving beings?
Very much so. More so than humans.
And does Abraham consider these beings to have souls?
Yes, but not on the same level as us.
How so?
Just the definition of soul is completely different.
Yeah. What is a different kind of soul?
They
What
don't have to go through life lessons. We do. So
Okay.
their existence is joyful.
Very cool. Ask if they resemble a humanoid shape.
Of sorts, yes. Of sorts.
And what does Abraham think of Cryon?
It's, I don't know why he says this, made up.
So Cryon is channeled through this guy. Cryon Lee Carroll. Ask Abraham if Cryon is a light being.
Yes.
And in which way is Cryon made up?
It's made up of a consciousness. What is Cryon?
Cryon is so awesome. Equivalent to Abraham in the depth of knowledge. It's just this entity who says that he's basically always been in spirit, and he just talks about how the astral world works. Can you pull in Cryon?
Okay. Very powerful.
Ask Cryon what it is.
It's just a ball of consciousness.
And is it one entity?
No.
And has the ball of consciousness gone through ascension?
Yes.
And is the information Cryon gives humans accurate?
Well, I'm asking Cryon itself.
Yeah.
Let me ask Bashar, is the information that Cryon gives accurate? Yes.
Yeah, Cryon is super awesome, and everything he says is so great. Like, but I think one time we measured Cryon to Abraham, and I think we got that Abraham might have been higher ascension. Can you figure that out?
Well, they're on two different levels completely.
Which one is higher in ascended, whatever you call it?
Abraham. That's because this Cryon is not even bound by the same things that Abraham is. Abraham's bound by soul. Cryon is not.
Ask Cryon if it was created by Source.
No.
What created Cryon?
Humans.
And
I feel like they prayed to a god of Cryon.
Okay, ask Cryon where he got all his knowledge from.
From the all-knowing in the universe.
So what's really interesting about Cryon is he paints a picture of like how we are evolving and how we're ascending, and has some really good meditations. And I'm wondering, if it's not from Source, but it's giving us good information, like why that happened, like why or how that happens.
Why are you doing it? Because it likes to be friendly.
And is Cryon of positive energy?
It believes so, yes.
And can you ask Abraham if Cryon helps or hurts people?
Both. Just like humans.
Okay, how about this? Does Abraham think that Cryon's information is good?
For the most part.
And obviously, does Abraham think that Abraham's information is much better?
Absolutely.
Okay, and ask Abraham if that's because Abraham thinks that its information is directly from Source.
That's correct.
Okay, and then a clarifying question. Does Abraham think Cryon's information is from Source?
No.
But it is accurate.
For the most part.
Well, there you go. That's the Lineage of the Soul, and all I got for today's video.
Well, that was really awesome. I'm sure everybody will really enjoy that. So thank you very much. If you would like to give us some questions, please contact Mr. Robot, who also does energy healing. You can contact him at moongrass777@gmail.com.
Thank you.
So thank you. That was fascinating. I really enjoyed that.
I think we got a lot of things clarified, and basically I like to give people a lot of starting points on where they can investigate in their own research and stuff. So
I can't imagine how many hours you have actually spent listening and researching and, oh, it's amazing. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.